Recently, I made a video checking up on a fellow co-op heisting game, crime boss Rockay City, who many may hold in regards to be a very average attempt at a heisting game. However, after just over a year has passed with that title, the team over at In-Game Studios have been working hard to make it into a worthy contender in the genre, and their hard work is definitely showing and paying off for the most part. So much so to the point where my beloved heisting game series, Payday, the gold standard for heisting games, needs to start taking some notes from its fellow neighbours over in Prague in many areas. However, instead of completely running a train on Payday and making the comparison of what Crime Boss does better than it, I thought it would be more productive to sit down and go over not only what Payday 3 can learn from Crime Boss, but also what pages Crime Boss could take out of Payday's book 2. My ultimate goal for this video is to complement both of these games in what they do well, and exchange some ideas between both titles. I live in a world where I would want nothing more than for both of these games to succeed and flourish. But enable for us to get to that point, we really have to start picking these games apart individually and see if we can find some middle ground when it comes to what they can learn from one another. So with that intro out the way, let's find out what Payday 3 can learn from Crime Boss, and vice versa. Let's start off with the menus. Crime Boss has a very unique style that it's going for with its menus, and everything is displayed really nicely. Especially when you get into a lobby with some bots or other players, the host of the game sits on a throne and you know they're the boss. It's just a really badass way of indicating to the lobby who's in charge of this score. And in the campaign mode in single player, we have a CrimeNet styled map where we can choose our next score from on a whiteboard. Switching over to Payday 3, it's the complete opposite. The menus feel lifeless and boring. I can't help but feel Crime Boss has really nailed this very simple yet effective approach when it comes to the first impressions and the amount of choice the player has when it comes to what they want to do in the game. Overall, the menus in Crime Boss feel very slick and well thought out, whereas in Payday 3, they just kind of feel tacked together. I'm definitely looking forward to that UI update that they've been teasing in Operation Medic Bag to see what changes they can make to this very lackluster UI. As for Crime Boss, they've done a stellar job when it comes to the presentation when you first log into the game. I can't say the same when it comes to the customization. It's very limited and there's not an awful lot to choose from besides certain preset characters and weapons you can purchase. Whereas in the Payday games, even though right now in Payday 3, the customization is sorely lacking compared to Payday 2, but it still allows for far more customization options for your suits, masks, gloves, and guns. Same for the weapon customizations. I just wish Crime Boss in the future can take some notes when it comes to its weapon customization. Although the roster of weapons is far greater, it's let down massively by the inability to tailor our favourite guns to be our own. Sure, they've added some spray paints in the latest update, but I'm talking the ability to change sights, grips, handles, stocks, magazines. The list goes on. Going forward, overall, I hope we can see some better customization options for Crime Boss. Crime Boss plays like a much more casual shooter, so even though the UI and HUD don't really share much in terms of information about your teammates, I can somewhat forgive it as it pretty much shows you everything you need to know. Although, I personally would love to see other players' weapons, ammo, equipment, and so on. The way the game's designed, it's not exactly a necessity, but it's certainly something I would love to see and have. However, with Payday 3, the direction of that game is totally different compared to Crime Boss, with the series having a much bigger emphasis on teamwork and cooperative gameplay. The lack of certain HUD elements is honestly extremely questionable. I gave Crime Boss the slide as it's a much more casual approach to the heisting genre. However, with Payday 3, you would have expected the team to have learned and expanded upon their HUD elements, especially after 10 years of Payday 2. It would be very nice to see what equipment my teammates have, what weapons are they using, how much ammo do they have, how many nades do they have, so I can make an educated guess if I need to drop certain equipments like an ammo bag. Crime Boss has some very questionable dialogue for the most part. However, what it does do well with it is the interactions between those characters during a heist. At the time of making this video, Payday 3 has yet to implement their additional heister voice acting with their next upcoming update, so time will tell if they can match Crime Boss's level of interactivity, immersion, between not just the heisters, but the contractors as well. Characters in Crime Boss update the contractor Nazara on their progress throughout the heist and keep each other in the loop. It feels fresh and it's an indication of how far you have left to go in each mission. It's a very small thing, but it adds so much to the world building and characterization of the game. And I hope that further down the line with Payday 3, we can see some much better interactions between the heisters. But not with just the heisters, but the contractors as well. I touched upon this in my previous Crime Boss video, but I wanted to extend a branch here to make this next comparison. The AI in Crime Boss really goes above and beyond in terms of their usefulness to the player in both stealth and loud. They tie up civilians in stealth, smash and grab loot, and throw that loot into the escape van all in a day's work. Not to mention that with each teammate you bring, they have their own unique perks and weapons. And to go an even bigger step further, if you are playing solo, you can switch between them in a click of a button. Payday 3 on the other hand, has glorified bullet sponges. Sure, they can carry bags for you, but only up to one at a time. After playing around with Crime Boss's AI, I would absolutely love to see my AI companions take bags from me in stealth and make their way out of the bank and bag the loot for me. Instead, they just stand there. Sure, they'll call out guards and cameras sometimes, but I would really love to see a proper evolution of Payday's AI. Allow them to carry more bags, have customizable loadouts, smash and grab loot on their own, take it to the escape van, allow them to be ordered about. So yeah, overall, after playing around with Crime Boss's heisting companions, there's so much inspiration Payday can take from this in terms of leveling up and evolving their AI. When it comes to gunplay and the way weapons feel to handle, Payday takes the cake. Each weapon in Payday 3 has a unique feel and fits a certain playstyle. To touch upon the customization from earlier, each weapon performs a bit differently depending on what it is you want to put on your weapon. For Crime Boss, this isn't to say the gunplay is bad or anything, it's average at best. I personally would love to see weapons having much more impact when firing, with also some more fancy inspect animations to show off our paint jobs that we purchased. For the most part though, Crime Boss's gunplay is serviceable, whereas Payday 3's feels like each weapon really packs a punch. In the previous Payday games, especially Payday 2, RNG in each heist changed after every single time you restarted the heist. This could vary from something minor, like different keycard placements, to major changes like vault locations completely changing. Coming into Payday 3, that mission variety in RNG is just not there compared to its predecessor. Almost every heist pretty much has preset objective placements, making each run of that heist easier than the last, but more predictable. The only exceptions I'll make for Payday 3 are the heists Rock the Cradle, 99 Boxes, and Syntax Error. Those heists do a great job with switching up where the key objectives are. 99 Boxes even goes a step further, with having the objective locations be in either one of two halves of the map. I just wish we saw that kind of creativity in its layout from other heists, just minus the circles. Switching over to Crime Boss, however, it's a completely different story. I can load into the jewelry store job 5 times and have a completely brand new experience both inside and outside of the store. You see, in-game have taken this one huge step further. Not only are the objective placements randomized like keycards, vaults, security rooms, etc., but for a lot of these heists they have completely new layouts whenever you spawn in. But like what I just mentioned, this isn't just for the heist interiors, but also the areas surrounding the mission objective. Let's take the compound job for example. I can load into this heist twice and have a completely new experience, with the surroundings completely changing every time I spawn in. And even for smaller jobs like armored transport jobs and shops, the RNG in these levels is simply the location in which you find yourself in. For the shops job for example, you can find yourself at either a small shopping strip, a large shopping mall, or a car dealership. They have really gone above and beyond when it comes to keeping each session fresh to play. I really hope going forward into Payday 3's lifespan, Starbreeze can take a couple of hinters from in-game's book, and just switch up the objectives from being mostly fixed. It would make for a much more replayable and ultimately fun experience. Payday 3 for the most part runs really well, whereas Crime Boss on the other hand has some massive performance issues. Even with all of my graphics options set to the lowest, on some missions I'm struggling to get above 60 frames per second. And I'd say I've got a pretty decent rig for the most part. Payday 3 is far more superior when it comes to the performance aspect of their game. Whereas for Crime Boss, it's very 50-50 whether or not you're going to be getting a good or a bad experience when it comes to your frame rate and your performance. I've saved the best till the absolute last here, as I feel like it's also the most important on this list. Crime Boss functions on a peer-to-peer connection, meaning that you don't have to rely on third-party servers to get into a game. I can just log in, select whatever heist I want to play, and boom, it's as simple as that. Switching over to Payday 3, you already know where I'm going with this. Sure, a solo mode and an offline mode are in the plans for Operation Medic Bag, but after 10 years of Payday 2, you would have thought the Starbreeds would have learnt their lesson when it came to the ease of play with Payday 2. Like Crime Boss, I can boot up a game of Payday 2, select a heist, and boom, I'm in. Whereas in Payday 3, the process is sometimes just so painful, especially when the servers decide to shit the bed some days. And whenever an update for the game is ready to go live, they need to completely shut the servers down to implement it, meaning that you sometimes can't even play the game that you purchased for up to hours at a time. Crime Boss has done a stellar job when it comes to its peer-to-peer approach, and Payday, once again, should start jotting some notes down. Which brings me to the conclusion and the entire point of this video. I love both of these titles and I want the absolute best for both in-game studios and Starbreeze. I feel like it's very impractical to start labeling which game is better, as from what I've hopefully demonstrated to you all, both of these games have their strengths and weaknesses and they hone in on their strengths very well. Keep in mind too that Crime Boss has had over a year's worth of content and Payday 3 is just over half a year through its first year. Hopefully we can see more innovation going forward from both of these games in the areas they are lacking the most, from what I've pointed out in this video. I sort of wanted to approach this video in a way that was some sort of handshake moment for both of these games. Instead of pitting them against each other, let's lift them both up and support them. Who wouldn't want two go-to heisting games on the market that they can alternate in between and complement each other in a unique way? I certainly would love that. And hey, Payday is known for their collaborations with various different IPs. If there was ever an appropriate collaboration between two studios, I can definitely say it would be these two. And that is where the video is going to end. Thank you very much for watching this video, everyone. What are some things that Crime Boss could learn from Payday, and what are some things that Payday can learn from Crime Boss? Please feel free to leave a comment below and let's get a discussion going. Thank you so much again for watching this video, everyone. If you liked it, leave a like, and if you want to see more heisting game content, subscribe to the channel. And on that note, I've been Little Guy G. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next video. See you later, buddies.